Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Dana Scranton, and welcome to Entrepreneurs Without Limits. Well, today is episode 2 in our series on Outwitting the Devil. Episode 1 was an introduction, gave you the idea of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and some of the background information on the book and the author, Napoleon Hill. So today we're going to go straight into episode 2. And episode 2 is all about energy. Now, let me just recap what we're doing here very briefly before I get going on this. Outwitting the Devil is a book that was published in 2011, but actually written way back in 1938, written in the form of a manuscript, but never released. The reasons? Well, see episode 1. Now, in this book, there's a very logical sequence that Napoleon Hill takes. But in this series, what I will do is break it down into the critical concepts, the critical ideas, and review those independently. Then you can read the book or listen to the audio. But here, we're going to go into the details of the concepts that are discussed in that book. Now, the first one we're going to cover is energy, because energy is referred to a number of times in the book, so we're going to start there. Now, one of the things Napoleon Hill said in the book is life consists of swarms of energy or entities, each as intelligent as human beings believe themselves to be. These units of life group themselves together like hives of bees and remain together until they disintegrate through lack of harmony. What did he mean by that? Well, let's talk about that. Now, the idea of energy is used throughout Napoleon Hill's books. It began way back in The Law of Success, which was back in the late 20s. And the idea is this: energy is a form of, well, let's say, ethereal communication in his context. It is the means by which we communicate with the infinite universe. Now, his personal experience was highlighted in the explanation of this concept, in his finding of his other self. Now, that was pivotal in his life, and it stayed with him to his death. What did he mean by the other self? Well, when he met with Andrew Carnegie in 1908, Andrew Carnegie suggested to him a path that he should take, which of course was to research the world's most successful people, learn what made them successful and what their failures were that taught them and moved them forward to success. In that discussion, Napoleon Hill learned from Carnegie that at some point in his journey, he would encounter his other self. That other self, of course, at the time that Napoleon heard that, he had no idea what that was, hadn't the vaguest clue what it was. But ultimately, it was energy. Okay. Now, his encounter with his other self and his encounter with the devil, as described in this book, were explained in part in the context of the form of energy that was taken by the devil and his opposition. Now, the foundational lesson taught is this: you are comprised of energy. Your body, your mind, and your soul have an energy signature that is unique to you, and the composite of the various frequencies of the energy centers within you are what make up that energy signature. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so in the metaphysical sense, in the sense of the meditative body, the meditative mind, you have 7 energy centers. Some refer to those as chakras, right? Each of those energy centers have an energy profile and frequency with which they vibrate. They combine to produce a composite frequency that you vibrate at, and the energy level is dominated by either the harmony of those or the disharmony of those. That energy signature that most strongly pervades your personality, if you will, is the resonant energy from which the infinite intelligence reads what to send you. In other words, that energy signature attracts resonant energy from infinite intelligence and amplifies in your direction according to your dominant thoughts and actions. And that energy signature follows you from mortal life to post-mortal life. Now, this is an important concept. It's not described in this way in the book, but if you read between the lines, this is what he's talking about. You are responsible for managing your state of energy throughout your body. It's not like one part lives without the other. You have to be conscious and aware of where your energy is at any given time. And we'll get into that more in just a moment. Now, one of the concepts that Napoleon has talked about over and over and over again, in fact, it's not a concept, it's a law. Your own thoughts and desires serve as the magnet which attracts units of life from the great ocean of life. Only the friendly units which harmonize with the nature of your desires are attracted. Now let's break that down. First of all, these little units of life that he's talking about, that's energy. He's talking about units of energy. Each of those packets of energy that you receive within your body, up and down the meridian, if you will, where the 7 chakras live, each of those are comprised of little packets of energy. They vibrate at a certain frequency according to the function of that given area. They combine to create your composite frequency. That composite frequency is what attracts to you the things that you desire. Now, let's go one step further here. Only the friendly units which harmonize with the nature of your desires are attracted. So let's go a little deeper into that. Does that mean that only positive desires attract these units? Well, that may be what he means, but let's consider a fact. There's 2 ways to express a desire. You can say, I desire financial independence and the ability to lead my life with very specific beliefs and ideas and vision and all the things that would make life so enjoyable. And you envision what those are, where you are, how it feels to be there. As opposed to, I hate this job, I want out of this job, I desire to be out of this job. Well, does it mean that the universe won't send you the energy units to help you get out of that job? Unless, of course, you're very positive about it and have a picture of where you want to go. No, I don't think so. I think what's been proven and what many people now accept as reality is if you have a negative desire, let's say a negative themed desire, you have a positive desire, you want to get out of this job. But if the only thoughts that are conveyed to the intelligence of the universe are, I hate this job, I want to get out of this job, the universe will help you do that. But where you land may be worse than where you started. It may be another trip into hating a job. So beware that the energy units that he's talking about, I think you attract them regardless of whether they are towards the positive. In other words, I want this life. I want to feel this. I want to go here, do that. Or I want out of here. Now, you may view I want out of here as positive, but the results you get may not be aligned with your expectations. Just saying. Now, in the early part of the 20th century, the idea of the ether was very popular. And the ether was the energy field that surrounds the earth and pervades the universe from which all things come. Now, many thought leaders at the time also espoused the idea that thoughts are things, i.e., the science of getting rich by Wallace D. Wattles, and that these thoughts would manifest from the ether. In other words, your thoughts reinforced and experienced with emotion and feeling would attract like energy from the ether and manifest into that which you desire. Well, that is a concept and an idea and a reality that has been brought straight through Napoleon Hill's works. Today, that ether is known as infinite intelligence, consciousness, God, all elements of metaphysical and spiritual entity concepts associated with it. But it's a universal idea. The universal idea is that we are surrounded, we live within an energy field that is infinite, that is intelligent, that is beyond our comprehension, but which we can tap into if we do certain things, which is one of the elements of this book. Now, the practices associated with energy and the human mind, body, and soul have really diversified and developed since the early part of the 20th century. And we live in a very different world than what was in existence back then, in some respects. But the core idea is still the same. Your thoughts predict your future. It's that simple. Now, when Hill explained we're made up of these units of energy which contain equal amounts of intelligence, what he was really talking about was that intelligence is the message, the content, the information that comes to you when you ask for it in a certain way. And the sixth sense, which we'll go into in the next episode, is what that is all about. But it's energy. It's energy contains information. It is vibrating at a certain frequency. That frequency is a composite of all the information that is contained within that energy packet, the energy unit that is coming to you. And that's where he gets the idea of the intelligence of these little packets of energy. Now, it's the coordination of these little intelligent units that dictate how you live and how you move in life. Okay? Those energy packets, let's just break it down more simply. If you vibrate with a positive energy that is based around a definite purpose and something that you have on your mind that you want, it is positive, you can envision it, you can taste it, feel it, hear it, touch it, you live it, then that's the energy frequency that you will resonate with from the ether, if you will, and it will be brought to you in a way that helps you to achieve it, but only you can achieve it. Keep that in mind. Now, in the context of this book, these units consist of positive and negative energy. Now, he says the harmonious association of which results in positive momentum in your life. I'm paraphrasing that. The disharmony produces the opposite. Now, what is he talking about there? Well, we kind of referred to that a little bit earlier. These positive packets will be attracted to you to the extent that you are in harmony with that frequency, with that energy. They'll also be attracted to you if you're in a negative state. It's just that when you do that, you have far less control of where you're going because there is an entropy involved. And we're going to get to that in a moment. Now, he refers to the disorganization of energy units. What that really is, what he's referring to, is the second law of thermodynamics, which many people hear as entropy. What is entropy? Well, one way to look at it is entropy is a measure of how much energy in a system is transmitted to a useless state. In other words, if you have a gallon of gasoline and you get 100% of the energy out of that gallon of gasoline, then your entropy is zero. But on the other hand, if you put that in your car and you see stuff going out the exhaust pipe and you hear sound and you hear all sorts of other things, what's the entropy of a gallon of gas? I don't know. But the bottom line is you don't get all the energy out of it that is possible. You get some of it. And so it is the same with the energy that comes to you, to your mind, your body, and your soul. If you are in a positive state where you are vibrating at a state that is a high frequency, so to speak, you're positive, you're focused, you have a definite purpose, and you are going after that purpose with all the right reasons and right means, then you will have a lower entropy. You will get more out of the energy you put into that process to achieve your purpose than if you're operating from a negative state where everything is wrong, nothing is quite right. It's always somebody else's fault. I can't. That's a negative state of energy. You will multiply the entropy to the point where the energy you put in, you get very little out, by way of moving you forward. In fact, many people who get into this state of total negativity go backwards. They backslide because they have no positive energy to carry themselves forward. That's a concept, but it's also a very real thing. Okay, it's real in the physics world and it's real in the metaphysical world. It's real in your life. Now, to counter that law, to give you minimal entropy, maximum useful energy, you must clearly understand that your dominating thoughts and actions combine to amplify what is attracted to you. Thoughts are things, those things combine to create your life. Now, in the context of Hill's interview with the devil, where he has this going back and forth with him, trying to extract from him all of his secrets, energy takes front stage. It is said in the book that every atom is comprised of a positive and negative energy, and the devil has 50% of it, and God has the other 50%. The devil represents that negative half, and he is proud of it. Okay. But yet, he claims that 98% of the people on the planet, he owns them. Only 2% he doesn't own. Now, that's a heck of a number. How does he possibly say that if half the atom is positive and half the atom is negative? Well, it's very simple in the context of the book. What you attract to you as negative energy amplifies the negative energy that's within you. And it amplifies the association with the infinite intelligence. It just gives you what you're asking for. So keep that in mind. Don't get confused with some of the context that he brings forward in this discussion with the devil. Now, the opposition, of course, I said, is God, the infinite intelligence, a creator, whatever term, whatever belief is congruent for you. But in Hill's perspective, they're all the same. He states in the book that, in his opinion, there is a universal energy field that is surrounding the universe, the world, from which all things come. Accept it, reject it, whatever, but understand that the idea that there is energy that we have to manage is central to how we move forward towards our objectives. Okay. Now, keep in mind that the devil's assertion in this interview is that he claims those whose energy body is possessed by negative energy, and that's how he gets a hold of you. When you become entrained into a life of negativity, disappointment, and drifting, the devil's got you. What does that mean? What it means is you're on a one-way or a multi-way path to disappointment, to where you don't want to be. Now, I'm sure that you know people who are just negative. Everything is wrong. Everything is everybody else's fault. It's not possible. They just keep talking themselves out of all the positive things that could come. And I'm sure you know people who are positive about everything. They see a good in everything. They see an outcome in everything. But there's truth to that. Okay, within every adverse circumstance we have in our life, there is the seed of success. There is the seed of opportunity. And if you look at it that way, that's true. Just because something doesn't go how you want to, or some surprise occurred, doesn't mean that the world is out to get you. What it means is look at it, analyze it, understand it, and know that there is energy that you can tap into on a positive sense to help you move forward towards that which you desire. Okay? Keep that in mind. All right. Now, dominant thoughts. To control and dominate your thoughts and actions to achieve that which you desire in life requires two fundamental things. And it is one of the biggest concepts that Napoleon Hill ever delivered. You must create and live your definite purpose with definiteness. That's his mantra. And that comes all the way back from the 1920s when he did his research and the first book was laid out. In other words, the law of success. Definite purpose was what he found to be the single dominant variable that led people to success. That's his mantra. Without a definite purpose, you become vulnerable to being overtaken by negative energy and suffering the consequences. So definite purpose is definitely where the action is at. Now, in his book, he will refer to three different ideas. One, definite purpose. Another, your definite chief aim. And number three, definiteness of purpose. Well, your definite purpose and your definite chief aim are really the same thing. A definite purpose is the object of your focus. That is what you're aiming at. Okay. It is the thing that you want to achieve. Definiteness of purpose is the tenacity, consistency, and focus that you bring to that process in the pursuit and attainment of your definite purpose. You apply the definiteness of purpose and tenacity, consistency, focus, effort, energy, all of that. You might say that you pursue with definite purpose and unwavering definiteness. So you go after that desire, you go after that picture in your mind as the definite purpose, but you do it with unwavering definiteness. Make sense? Okay. Well, that's really the end of today's episode, and I hope you got something out of that. I know it's a little deep, but as you get into the book, what I want to do is arm you with a little additional thoughts and some abstract ideas to help you get more out of the book. Now, the sixth sense. This is the next episode, okay? And when we talk about this, I just want to give you a little tickler. Hill associated his other self with two terms, the sixth sense and faith. Of course, the sixth sense is that unseen feeling that you get, the thought that pops into your mind, that little sense that something is or isn't right, or you know what I mean? I'm sure you've had that. But he also applies the word faith to it. And here's where that comes from. If you don't have faith in the intelligence of the universe helping you, being your co-pilot, being your partner in this journey to your purpose, you're going to miss a lot. It's going to make the journey more difficult. Faith is accepting the fact that there is energy that is there to help you. And that sixth sense is faith speaking. So just keep that in mind. And it is, in essence, an energy communication. So the sixth sense is energy. It's resonating with the communications, the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts and actions that you are displaying. Okay. And again, for this reason, your definite purpose and your thoughts and actions must be congruent. In other words, if you have a definite purpose leading you towards a certain target, a certain aim, then your thoughts and actions have to be congruent with that. The moment you start diffusing, then the sixth sense becomes noisy. That's what he's saying. Well, we'll get into that in the next episode. Well, I hope you found this beneficial. This book is filled with ideas and concepts. And at our state today, in this part of the 21st century, we're exposed to a lot more information now than he was. We've seen a lot of new science. We've seen a lot of new things proven, emphasized, and to the point where there is empirical evidence of the truth, more so than he had. So we're in a better position to interpret the writings of Napoleon Hill than the people back in that day were. So just keep that in mind. So with that said, once again, this is Dana Scranton, and we'll see you out there on the frontier of opportunity. Take care.